We know that a leader's primary responsibility is to shape organizational culture. And we're working on how they actually do that. Whether they do it knowingly or unknowingly, leaders shape organizational culture in four main ways. Leaders shape culture by their prayer, their lives, their work, and their words. Let's come now to the third way leaders shape organizational culture, through their work. First, leaders' values and priorities are clearly revealed in what they focus on. The people in the organization look at what the leader is looking at, and they also pay close attention to the leader's emotions. You may not be aware of that, but they do. When a leader gets particularly passionate or annoyed, then everyone assumes that that issue is important to him or her. Then, how leaders respond to crises. In a crisis, people's deeper values are exposed. For example, they may try to protect themselves, or they may seek to help others first. The heightened level of emotion in crises also means that people will remember what happens then more than at other times. Consequently, in a crisis, the leader's actions will be both remembered and also taken to be a truer example of who they really are. Next, leaders shape culture by how they allocate resources. No leader has unlimited resources, and how leaders choose to use their scarce resources shows what they truly value. Further, leaders shape culture by how they deal with people. Everyone constantly watches how leaders deal with people. Who is selected for certain responsibilities? Who is promoted and why? Who is fired and why? Who is rewarded and why? And the people follow that example. So if the leader says he wants collaboration, but then rewards someone who achieved good results but worked very selfishly and undermined others, then it will be assumed that results are all that matter and that self-serving behavior is acceptable. To change the culture, it would be necessary for that person to be held accountable, not rewarded for their self-serving behavior. Alternatively, if the leader doesn't hold people accountable for results, then people will assume that results don't matter. Next, how leaders design the organization. The structure of any organization will have an effect on how the people in it actually work. So to change the organization, sometimes various structures will need to be changed. This includes the design of who reports to who, how decisions are made, how money is spent, how conflict is dealt with, how communication occurs, how team members are cared for, how meetings are held, and the systems and policies across the life of the organization. These all systematically reinforce beliefs and values, for better or for worse. And also, how leaders design physical aspects of the life and the ministry of the organization. There are many physical things that reflect and shape organizational culture. For example, who gets which office? Who has the bigger desk? How are the chairs arranged in a meeting? In rows like a classroom or in a circle? It all tells a story. These and many other physical things reflect values, tell stories, and guide organizational culture in one direction or another. Now we come to the fourth way that leaders shape organizational culture, through their words. People do listen to leaders, especially when the leader's life aligns with his or her words. This means that every communication is critical. In every form of communication, the leader's words must be clear, passionate, and credible, and they must line up with the culture the leader wants to nurture. Leaders are always communicating, whether with a large group in public or in one-on-one situations, to give instruction, advice, encouragement, counsel, or correction. All of these times are opportunities to shape the broader organizational culture. Take advantage of them. What the leader affirms and celebrates also demonstrate what is really valued. Who the leader says are the heroes shapes the culture. Sadly, many leaders try to shape culture only by what they disapprove of or criticize. Instead, we should nurture a positive culture through affirmation of what is good. And the stories the leader tells and retells over time will eventually shape the culture. For example, when the leader regularly shares stories of how he and others have trusted God at times of difficulty in the organization and how they saw the faithfulness of God, that will nurture a culture of dependency on God more effectively than simply telling the people they need to trust God. And of course, the formal statements leaders make are also important. These are the public face of the organization and demand close attention. Every time you communicate anything to anyone, you're shaping culture. Remember that. So these then are the 4 ways that leaders shape culture: their prayer, their lives, their work, their words. Again, the important thing to recognize is that leaders are constantly shaping culture, whether or not they realize it, through their own lives, in everything they do and don't do, in everything they say and don't say, and how they say it, in everything they allow and don't allow, in everything and at all times. Leaders are nurturing either a healthy culture or an unhealthy one. So, do this well.